Hello. Today I am making a cake for Good Friday and for Easter, and it's special because I'm making a lamb. Now my mum has this wonderful kit which I'm just going to grab from, it's a German company called Zinke. You can look up these online, and they have two kits in here. One which I'm using today and one which I'm not. So the one I'm not using today is a bunny, very cute, has a little egg on the front. These are very helpful because they have the ingredients on the side. Technical hitch, they are in German, hence it being a German company, but my husband's fluent in German, so yay. Also, if you were to buy them and not sure, you know, there are many translation apps on the web these days, you can have a little look. So what happens is they come in two parts, and they have these little bits that fix in the pattern together. So then you put your lovely cake mix in here, pop it in the oven, and away you go, and you come out with your mould. As I say, I'm not using this one today. I'm using a lamb. Ta-da! I'll turn him out the way you can see a bit better. And they have these wonderful patterns on them, so you can, when you get the cake out, you can see the pattern on there. Now, there's a couple of reasons why I've chosen the lamb rather than the bunny, but I'll pop into those later. First thing you have to do is make sure your oven's on. For me, gas mark 5 is the way to go, because my oven doesn't get very hot very quickly, and so it needs a bit of help. You need to just butter the inside of the mould. I've tried all sorts of things. I've tried using the sort of olive oil type sprays. That would work fine, but I usually keep a little bit of this paper when you've finished using your butter, or if you like me, you've got a tiny bit left from another recipe, and I like to just wipe it round in there. Okay, the recipe's really simple. So simple they can write it on the side. So it's 2 eggs. Well, I've got my 2 eggs in my little mug here, and I've already beaten them, so they're already beaten up. 120 grams of butter. Now I've gone to make sure it's all soft, so it's ready to go. And again, 120 grams of sugar. So your sugar and your butter are equal, which is nice. And then you have 160 grams of plain flour. And in that I've already added half a teaspoon of baking powder, so you want it to rise. So it's one of those traditional kind of basic recipes. You can almost imagine it being used for cupcakes or that kind of thing, and it produces a really nice textured cake. So let's go ahead and put it all together. So I've got my butter, that's going in my big pan, and I've got my sugar, and that's going in here as well. Now they talk about cream, well, there isn't a specific recipe, as you've seen. It literally is just the ingredients written on the thing. So, you know, I went back to my old roots of when I was a little girl and I made cakes with my mum and my grandma. And, you know, you cream your butter and your sugar together. So, hence the need for the butter to be soft already, because actually what you want is that to be easy to do, because otherwise you've got this great big hard lump of butter that's just not going to happen. So carry on mixing that. Takes a little bit of effort. I'm going to put that down so I can put some more effort into it. Put your back into it and you'll get it mixed around. So I've left this butter up for maybe 20 minutes, half an hour, because I really want it to just take up all that sugar easily. And I don't really want to spend ages like hacking at it. Now, as you can see, I've done it with a fork. I like hard work. You could use a machine, but it's not quite so good on camera. It makes a lot of noise and more cables and etc. So handmade for me today, and I'll get some mussels. So all mashed together, no sugar sitting around the outside, all together. So then I've got my egg. Now, I don't know if this is where the phrase comes, don't over egg it, but basically don't over egg it. put a little bit in at a time and mix it around, otherwise you can end up with a really curdled, yucky looking mixture. If I ever find that it starts to look a bit curdly, I'll start adding some of the flour in, because I don't want it to become this really gloopy, horrible mix that looks like it's kind of completely curdled down. So yeah, 2 already beaten eggs, just a little bit at a time. You know, we're not in any rush. We haven't got a rush. You know, it will get there. And as you say, if you do a little bit at a time, it gets a little bit more gloopy, but it's not becoming scrambled egg like. You know, that initial scrambled egg look that you get when you first put something in a pan and it starts to gloop up. That's what you're trying to avoid. So the reason I've gone for a lamb is just really to do with the Christian history of Easter and Good Friday. When Jesus was alive and when he was coming up to his death on the cross, it was actually around the time that Passover was taking place for the Jewish community, which is, you know, where Jesus lived and he was part of. And so, you know, that is the time of year when there would have been lots of thinking back to the times when the Jewish community was in Egypt and when they had Passover, and so they sacrificed the lambs and put the blood on the doorposts. And so, you know, there would have been that as a particular time that relates to his history. And also then Christians do call Jesus the Lamb of God that took away the sin of the world. So there's lots of links in with lamb. Yes, of course, it's that time of year when there's lots of baby lambs about. Totally understand that one. But for me, it's maybe got a deeper meaning, and for maybe other Christians. I'm going to put my flour in now, so I'm going to do a bit at a time again. You know, little bits, and you start mixing it in, and it becomes a bit more gloopy. Now, one thing I have noticed about this recipe is that it's quite a stiff batter. Like it doesn't it doesn't really pour in the way that, you know, sometimes you get these cake mixtures and you can literally pour them into the mould. Now I suspect that we probably don't want to pour it in the mould in that sense, because it would probably pour out the bottom somewhere. So I suspect that it's a deliberate thing from the manufacturer to make sure that your cake stays in the mould and doesn't run away anywhere else. Having said that, I do always put it on a baking tray in the oven because, you know, don't really want the bottom of my oven to get covered in cake mix. Cleaning ovens not being my favourite task of the week. So, just bring this up so you can see. There is some flour around the outside, and we're not too worried about that. It'll mix in eventually, and you can see I've got a nice sort of creamy batter, but as you see, it's kind of thick. It's not really runny. It's sort of drop consistency, but not like super runny. So that's it. That is the recipe. It's not a hard recipe, is it? Really nice and easy. So now the trick is to try and get it in here. So we shall see how this goes. I've got spatula, as always. Can't be doing without a good spatula when you're doing cake making. So I'm literally gonna put this over and then hopefully scrape it off in. I'm trying not to get too much at the top because I don't really want that to burn. It won't overfill the mould. If you do the ingredients list they've said, you know, pretty efficient. They want you to have a nice cake, so they're going to tell you the right amount to go in. Sensible. So make the recipe they've asked and don't add in bits, because otherwise you will find it's too full. And I just carry on putting that in. I do give it a little jiggle because I want to make sure that I don't end up with a lamb with a missing head. That would be weird and awkward to explain. So let me just get the rest of this out of the bowl. Lovely. So I'll just lift this up so you can see it's in there. I tend to do a little bit of that just because I want to make sure that it does all get covered. So there we are. So that's cake mix in there, lamb here on the tray, and that is going in the oven. And it really depends on your oven. As I say, mine's quite cool. I put it in there for about 25 minutes, on gas mark 5. My mum has a fan oven. She puts hers on at gas mark 4 and checks it at about 20-25 minutes. And if it's not quite ready, you'll find it looks quite crusty on the top, but it's slightly white in the middle. Give it a little poke, see how it feels. You'll instinctively know, is it really cooked? And then if it's not quite there, give it another 5 minutes. So that's going in the oven. Happy days. Now this is something I've always wanted to do. It's not something you get to do very often, unless you're a Blue Peter presenter. I'm not a Blue Peter presenter, but they have this wonderful phrase. Here's one I prepared earlier. So here is my Easter blessings cake. I will put the other one in the oven and we shall have 2 lambs. But very happy Easter to you. Many blessings.